And then we found out later that our sons are born a day apart. And Lottie stole my C-section slot. I was booked in and they sent me home because of an emergency, and that was Lottie.
You're joking?
No. So it's like this
so
weird
funny.
sort of fate that we were
Synchronicity of life.
Exactly. I feel like a lot of the decisions that have made and the way things have gone with us feel very much like the stars just align, and somehow these people get put in your like in your path, and you're kind of like, okay, this works, this makes sense, and from there, like through pure luck, we've managed to
secure an amazing team.
Hello, my name's Nicole and welcome to another episode of The Big Chat. And I have a feeling by the time this one comes out, we are going to be creeping towards Christmas in December. Can't believe it. It's come around so quick. Still got my glasses on. Thank you, Edney and Edney, for my Cutler and Grace glasses. I'm loving them, for chatting to guests on my show. But yeah, this is really exciting to talk to two people today we're going to be talking to, because I've not met them personally before, and I always like to have guests on that I've not actually got to meet in person. But they are doing amazing things in Tunbridge Wells, and they've been through a lot over the last 12 months. So we did think here it would be great to get them on The Big Chat and really find out all about them. So I'm really happy to introduce you to Lottie and Holly, who are the founders of the Zero Waste Company. Hello.
Hi.
hello.
And you know, the festive, you are looking festive today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
red and penguin-esque.
This is literally us to a T. I'm
Is
always
it?
in red of some description. I've always got red lipstick or something, and then you're the fluffy Christmas one.
I love a bit of festive.
I love
Festive
that.
wear.
So tell people that don't know about the Zero Waste Company, because I mean, if you don't know where you are, who you are, what you're doing, they could think all kinds of things.
It's true.
And you know, so tell people that are listening and watching a bit more about you both.
I'll let you start.
Okay. So the Zero Waste Company, we're based in the Pantiles in Tunbridge Wells, and we are a zero waste shop, which means like a refill shop. Our main sort of, I guess, selling point is the fact that we don't sell anything in plastic at all. And you can come and refill containers with everything that comes loose in gravity units, and cleaning products and things like that, and everything that kind of maybe you would get in the supermarket that is plastic, we try to find an alternative for. And we are also a cafe, so we're a zero waste cafe and shop, which basically means the cafe side of things, we try to be as zero waste as possible as well. We always say within reason for the sticklers. You know, you can't physically buy catering sizes of things that don't come in plastic, but for those things that do, we don't put them in landfill. We then put them into our shop for customers to reuse to fill their containers. So it kind of, we try and keep everything in a closed loop system.
Yeah.
And we work on a kind of zero waste food policy if we can. So we try to throw as little away as possible, but also we've got an in-house chef, Jen, who is incredible. And she uses sort of veg that's from, so we work with a local supplier who gives us their kind of tired veg, if you like, stuff that they can no longer sell, bendy carrots, that kind of thing. And she makes like amazing, incredible vegan food that we then sell in the cafe. So we're a vegetarian and vegan cafe.
So I mean, you've been there how long? When did you start?
2 years now.
Is it 2
Yeah,
years?
it was November 2019.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
Great
so
timing.
Amazing.
I know. Well, yeah, great timing.
Yeah.
How
Going
did
into
you know?
winter and a pandemic.
Absolutely. How do you know each other, you two? Have you always been friends?
No.
People think we have.
Yeah.
No, go on. You tell this story.
So well, how old were the boys? They would have been 9 months old.
No,
so
they were
about
7 months old.
7
when we
months
met,
old. So about 3 years ago, we met each other because we were both freelancing and trying to find support with childcare, because we couldn't justify full-time childcare. Being freelance, you never know when your work's going to come in, how often it's going to be. So it's just trying to reach out and find mums to help out. And we actually decided that we got on really well.
Yeah, there was. I think there was a week of kind of the general mum chit chat before we sort of went, should we just start a business together?
Let's just do something.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we did. And then we found out later that our sons are born a day apart. And Lottie stole my C-section slot. I was booked in and they sent me home because of an emergency, and that was Lottie.
You're joking.
No. So it's like this
is
weird
so
sort of
funny.
fate that we were supposed to meet.
Synchronicity of life.
Exactly. So now the boys are best friends, and
Which is great.
we get to be best friends and work together. Which is
That is
fabulous.
so cool. That is. So what were you freelancing as before?
I used to run a marketing and social media company. I say used to, I make that sound so much better. It was just me, but I was like, I run a consultancy.
Well, you
of
did.
Myself. I did.
Yeah.
Yes. So, mine was social media and marketing.
Yeah.
I was a VA, so
brilliant. So
virtual PA.
So okay. So you were both freelancing quite different backgrounds.
Yes.
I mean, look, I'm all for doing different things personally, but what made you decide on a coffee shop and on this? I mean, you've obviously, this is a passion of yours both by the sounds of it.
We both realised we had very similar kind of, I guess, interests or kind of outlooks is probably a better way of describing it. We both felt a little bit like when you become a parent, suddenly all of the plastic stuff that you consume as a general person sort of doubles or even triples with children. And we were really both very aware of the kind of environmental impact of having children. And it was a conversation we used to have all the time and talking about like how hard it was to kind of go plastic free. And even though if you really, really want to, it's such an effort. And so we kind of accidentally fell into it, and it became this thing. We were like, we should just do it. Just open a shop.
Yeah, let's just open a zero waste
shop. The funny thing was
Brilliant.
when we first opened, it was it was all about the shop. The cafe was like a little. It was like, should we just have a coffee machine? Yeah. And then the Pantiles is very cafe centric, and we learned very quickly that actually there was a massive demand for, especially vegetarian and vegan, and sustainably sourced, ethically sourced. There are people who are looking for that, and I think initially they found us accidentally, and then within a year, obviously we've had COVID to deal with. Our cafe sort of started to become more of a trade than the shop, so we've kind of had a bit of a revamp and swapped the whole place around.
Swapped it all around, but it's nice because the cafe customers will suddenly go, oh, what's that over there? And then you can show them around the shop and help them make a small sustainable swap. You go,
brilliant.
Have you thought about using this instead of this? And that's it. They then become a regular customer in the shop. So which is lovely. So one complements the other.
So it's interesting. So you say like as being, I mean, my children are a bit older. They're 10 and 12 now. So how old are your children? Like 4? Is that?
We've both got 3.5, and mine is 6, and then I've just got Beba.
A 1-year-old.
You've got 1. Wow, okay.
I had a baby during a pandemic.
I think a lot of people did. And a lot of people still are.
I was literally like, are you really doing this? Are you having a baby in our first year of business?
Why not?
Sure.
Well,
that's
We love a challenge.
So it's a good job she's cute.
So you were literally talking about, I mean, that's really interesting that you were talking about the fact that there's a lot more, because there is, isn't there? I mean, there is just so much stuff.
I mean, I went full hippie, like immediately, as soon as I was pregnant with my daughter. So 6 years ago, I was like, reusable nappies, reusable wipes. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use, and I had a lot of ideals. And then the reality is that actually when you become a parent, it's really bloody hard, and you can't hold yourself accountable for everything, and you do need to give yourself a break, but equally it meant that I was always leaning towards those kind of choices and finding myself ever frustrated by the fact that the majority of things aimed at children are wrapped in plastic, made of plastic, come in plastic packaging. It's outrageous just how much there is, and it does seem just worse for some reason with the children.
It's the amount of unnecessary stuff as
well.
Just that you're throwing away, isn't it? It's just like on a daily basis.
And trying to do it in one, we wanted to be a one-stop shop. That was the big thing, because going through, you could do it if you went to multiple shops, which defeated the object, especially when you're a mum. You don't have the time. So we were like, let's try and fit everything under one roof. And I think we've done a pretty good job.
I think so. I mean,
proper shop.
You can. We don't have the capacity of a supermarket, but we do try to, as much as is feasible, try and find a replacement or version of something that you'd buy in the supermarket, or suggest an alternative so that people can try something new. And we have a pantry section that has all the usual things like tins, but everything's in tin or glass because they are the most commonly recycled that are actually recycled products. I mean, people do the argument of, but plastic's recyclable. And it's such a conversation, and people hate me when I start talking about it because I think they feel like I'm sort of going at them, but I'm not. It's the education of it it's so difficult to get right without sounding like you're being really patronising or in some way sort of judging. But we've always said, like with our shop, we don't judge anyone what part of their journey they're on in terms of going plastic free. Like, I don't care if you have never even considered it until you walk through the door, and if you make one change, fabulous. I'm not expecting everyone to walk in to be, home composting and never buying plastic and not shopping on Amazon, and there's a whole lot of things we hold ourselves accountable for. And I think that with things like plastic, there are easy wins that we definitely can provide, and that's kind of like our starting blocks for people. And and we do try and educate people, but it's just that it's a very tricky thing without sort of coming across that you somehow think you're better than other people, or that that they're being so terrible for believing in recycling. It's just that it's a real sort of can of worms, if you like, and we just try and navigate it as kind of nicely as we can.
And have you got more passionate about it since it's been opened? Yeah. I mean, I can see maybe that you have. That was kind of a rhetorical question. But I mean, is it when you first opened? So I mean, look, the Pantiles. I mean, I'm born and bred Tunbridge Wells. I don't know about you guys. So when you first got into the Pantiles, how were you received? Like you said, there was probably a mix, was there, of people coming in that were interested, that were advocates, that weren't sure.
You have your diehard zero waste customers, which we love, and then you have people that just like the cafe or the shop and the team, because they are super friendly, really welcoming. We try and create a really nice environment for people to be in.
You make great soups.
We do.
I love your soup.
Yeah, they're very good.
I mean, I love all of it, but soup's really good. I just fancy soup today. Why didn't you bring any soup? It's a bit early for soup, isn't it? Yeah. But
and then you have customers that just are walking by and they
have
just
no
pop
idea
in and no idea what we do, what we're about, sit and have a coffee, and then go, what's that all over there? Because the gravity units are amazing to look at. Like, we have a wall of refill gravity units filled with pastas and rices and beans and pulses and everything, and they start getting in. They're like, oh, we don't have anything to fill them with. And like, here's a brown paper bag, come back with a plastic tub next time, or take a tub, whatever you want to do. So
I think it's funny, we didn't know what our demographic would be. We did as much market research as possible before we opened, but a lot of it was a wing and a prayer. And if I can say that
it's
now.
always the best way.
I can say that now 2 years in. But it's funny because I initially thought, we're just going to have like a lot of younger people, because I do feel like the younger generation have a better understanding of where they're at and wanting to make a change. But actually, we've got such a diverse mix, haven't we? Like
you couldn't put them in one bracket.
You really couldn't. And we have a lot of kind of different ages, especially with the cafe, being on the Pantiles, during the day in the middle of the week, for example, you're going to get a lot of the older generation, people who are retired, or tourists, obviously, is another one. And so we have those, and then we do obviously get the diehard, zero wasters and a lot of young people. And then you get the veggie and vegan crowd who want to come and, they know that they can have at least 10 items on the menu, which is like amazing.
Rachel would love that next door. Whenever we go, it's always like, do you do a vegan option, please?
And it is the vegan option.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not vegan options.
No.
So we made a decision early on. We would always, anything made in-house would be vegan. And we've always stuck to that. We do buy in, we buy in pastries and things that aren't vegan, and we make things with cheese. So, we're not completely cutting off, everything and it being completely vegan, but I think we have a really good balance. Majority of the things that are not vegan can be veganized, if you need. So I think
when you tell people all our cakes are vegan, they're like, which one's vegan? You're like, all of them.
And people are like, what? But then we also, it's really funny, the word vegan can trigger people, and so you kind of just don't necessarily shout vegan, because
there's a few people that don't like the word vegan.
We've had a few customers who've gone, oh no, they're vegan, I'll pass. And without trying it, and they just look like normal cakes and taste like normal cakes. It's quite funny. There's just an assumption that vegan means tasteless or somehow less worthy.
They have not tried Jen's cakes.
They haven't tried Jen's cakes. Yeah.
Were you both vegan before when you became friends?
I'm not vegan.
You're not vegan.
No, I was vegan when we opened. It sounds terrible, doesn't it? I was vegan when we opened, and then I think my COVID breakdown increased my cheese consumption somewhat. So I'm a vegan who eats cheese, which means I'm not a vegan.
That's fine. So
I'm veggie. And that's okay. And I've
But you're both vegetarian.
I'm vegetarian, and then my daughter is lactose intolerant. So where I'm still feeding her, I've had to cut out dairy, and I've become really appreciating of all of Jen's vegan stuff. It's so hard. I've never had to think about cutting out dairy until I had her, and going out to places and they go, that's the option.
Yeah.
That's rubbish. I'm going to go back to my place.
I was with my son. I had gestational diabetes, but I was really low on the scale, and he was lactose intolerant. I honestly, after I gave birth, it was just like I was about this small. I mean, it was just, I was so clean. It was just so, I just don't know why I didn't stay that way, because it was just, I felt so good. I mean, because from that birth, from my daughter's birth, who wasn't, and I think I used that as a bit of an excuse, as I can eat fish finger sandwiches, which I'm afraid to say I did quite a few of them. Then after I had my daughter, and not just the weight size of it and the aspect, but that it literally was just actually how I felt. I did not, my sort of springing back to feeling myself wasn't as great as it had been with my son. I
think that's a typical second time round as well, isn't it?
Yes, possibly.
I felt like that with my first. I was like, I am Earth Mother, and then second time I was like, oh God, this is awful.
You've got another one as well, haven't you? So it's a bit of a pain when you've got one on your hip at the same time. I can remember sort of navigating with a bump and a child. That was a bit tricky, but I think cleaner eating, everyone is getting much more certainly over the last few years everyone is much more aware of it, which is great.
100%. I think there's definitely, we get a lot of people asking for Jen's recipes, and it's funny, we're sort of like I don't know if we're going to give that to you because the thing is, she is so
hard.
clever.
You can't give recipes away.
No, so we kind of go, I don't actually know. Just an easy one. I mean, to be fair, I actually don't.
To be fair, we don't
I have no idea how
You're telling the truth.
She's
it's
a
fine.
wizard, honestly. Like, that woman is a wizard. I don't know how she does what she
leave.
does. No, we do say to her, her contract, if she ever hands a notice, it's 100 years. Sorry, Jen.
That's great. 100-year contract. I like that. How did you meet Jen then? Was that because you mentioned you had the coffee maker in the shop, and that was kind of it?
So she applied. We advertised for a waitress job, and she applied to be a waitress and retail assistant. And I looked at her CV and went,
She can cook.
I feel like you're overqualified for the position, but can you come in for an interview knowing that that's what we wanted her to do?
Little sly thoughts in her mind. Yeah, Jen funnily enough, she's a friend of a friend, and that friend messaged me saying, I hope this isn't too cheeky, but my friend's just applied and she's so lovely, because she just moved here from Croydon, and she really doesn't like her job, and so I was like, yeah, cool. And then I saw her CV and we were like, oh my god,
she was don't
get too excited. Poker face.
This was like,
she was like a product development chef for 10 years, a patisserie chef.
She's created a lot of the kind of desserts that you buy in the
amazing.
supermarkets, so it's just nuts. We feel very lucky to have her. But it's funny because we'd navigated a summer through COVID, and obviously that meant being closed for a majority of it, and then we were trying to Eat Out to Help Out, which floored most people in hospitality last year. When we kind of reopened properly, we were always just coffee and cake, and then we decided to start introducing things like sandwiches that we could make that you don't need a chef for, that just that you can put together.
We're way over our heads.
We were hugely out of our depth, and we actually got Danielle, who is our kind of manager, on board literally at the beginning of August, and she was an absolute lifesaver. So she used to manage a very successful cafe and applied, and we were like, oh, thank God. So she came in and we were just like, just make us actually functioning, because we didn't know what we were doing, and we had our hands up. We were very aware that we didn't know what we were doing, so we got the right people in. So she came in and really put the processes in place to run a proper cafe. And then after August, which was hell, we were like, we probably need to get a chef, maybe. And then Jen applied, and it was all like fate. I feel like a lot of the decisions that have made and the way things have gone with us feel very much like the stars just align, and somehow these people get put in your in your path, and you're kind of like, okay, this works, this makes sense, and from there, through pure luck, we've managed to
secure an amazing team, and they've all got a sustainable ethos.
Yeah.
Because Jen is a die-hard zero waste person.
Yeah.
It's incredible, and even I, as a zero waste shop owner, feel slightly guilty that she is way better than me.
I'm like, get quite competitive then with each other. Is it like?
To be honest, I just give her the mantle. I'm like, you win.
You win, hands down, every time.
There's just no point with Jen. She's brilliant. She constantly gives us ideas, and
as well. Because we have got loads of local suppliers in the shop, which is lovely. I think over 60% is local.
High percentage,
if not more. I'd say maybe more, maybe 80%.
Because we try everything we do. Whenever we whenever we have a product on the shelves, I don't think people understand that. For us, it's so important that we do vet everything. And our poor suppliers, when they come in, they're like, hi, I wonder if you're looking at my candles. And we are literally right, yeah, okay. And then there's all these questions. They're like, I'm like, where do you supply them from? Is it sustainably sourced? Are they ethically sourced? Are they from the UK? If they're not from the UK, how do you ship them? Where do you get them from?
Wow.
Are you using Amazon? What's the packaging like? How does the packaging come to you? And I think people kind of get a bit like, oh my God. But we do that because we can't state the kind of the things that we say on our website and on our sort of social media that, you know, when you buy from us, everything you buy has already been vetted. We already know that everything in our shop that we sell currently is ethically sourced.
You've done a lot of that work for them.
And the research that goes into that, we don't just accept anybody. And so, you know, with that, it means we've got some incredible local supply, and there are so many people in Tunbridge Wells making incredible products that we want, and we can't stock everyone either. That's the other problem, you know. Otherwise, we would have 25 different brands of candles because there are so many people doing it beautifully. So we just choose the ones that kind of align the most with us, or sometimes it's just whoever got here first, you know. And that is just the way of it, and we're very loyal people for that.
And I mean, you opened in November, and then obviously we went into lockdown. I mean, so that was like under 6 months since, really, wasn't it? How was that for you guys?
Hard.
Yeah,
really hard, because we didn't anticipate how slow the winter would be as a startup. It just, and then going into lockdown,
and especially a new business, and you've got young families.
And I think also it sounds ridiculous, but the Pantiles is very weather dependent in terms of if it's raining, the drop in footfall is unbelievable. And I feel like it rained from the day we opened until March. Like, I swear, it was just like...
March.
It was just like 2020 began with just rain. And then obviously March happened. And, you know, and there was like, we have a joke now, but there was 2 weeks, I think, when they first did the first lockdown. And Lottie was just very early, found out she was pregnant. And obviously they were telling people to isolate if they were pregnant. No one knew how long this was going to be going on for. And there was 2 weeks where it was kind of just me. And we very quickly started doing deliveries and things to initially to just the vulnerable, and then it became to everybody. And we started, you know, doing fruit and veg boxes and things like that. And it was me and 2 other part-time staff for 2 weeks solidly, and we were having something like, I don't know, 40 deliveries a day.
Wow.
Just us doing them. I just cried every night. Literally just
But what great
went
thing
home
you
and
were
cried.
doing. But what a brilliant thing that you were doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think
there must have been a lot, you know, there's a feel-good factor about that as well.
Oh, of course. But also just really genuinely wanting to help
That's
people.
what I mean. That's a really, you know, that's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, when you do good things, we don't do it because it makes us feel good, but it does make you feel good. That's what, you know, it's wonderful to be able to help.
It's quite a funny feeling, isn't it? Because you felt really redundant. So Lottie was all behind the scenes doing all of the admin stuff she could do at home.
Yeah.
But it was that thing of kind of, we have to do this. There isn't, it wasn't a kind of, oh, should we do this? It was like, we have to do something because this, people can't survive.
Stepping up,
currently.
that's brilliant.
Yeah. But then obviously when things eased a little, and I feel like we gained an incredible amount of customers through COVID.
I bet.
So although COVID is, you know, blamed for a lot, we can thank it a little bit. I think
we've gained some amazing loyal customers.
It kind of created our name was put out there more, I guess, because of that. And you know, who knows where we would be if there was no COVID and everything was normal for the last 2 years. But you can't really look.
I think it's a pandemic, isn't it? I think rather than actually focusing on that, it's the fact that it's the pandemic of how people react and how people pull together. And I think as a town, the community is strong, isn't it? And you must have experience of that now because, like you say, you're really well supported, and a lot of people know who you are now who might not have known that before the pandemic. And I mean, what else when you come out of lockdown and you kind of get back into it, I mean, was there any point when you were literally like, I can't do this anymore?
No,
Good.
there was never a point of that. There's days where you just go, okay, right, we're going into another winter.
Yeah.
What can we do? Because that was the one thing that surprised me, is how much people have struggled coming out of lockdown.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, so many businesses are reporting loss in footfall.
Yeah.
And obviously trying to recoup the pressure on trade.
Yeah.
It's not only got to make enough to get through winter, it's also got to make enough to recover from the debt from the last 12 months.
Yeah.
And the footfall hasn't even touch the sides on that, but everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah.
It's not just us.
We call it like a COVID hangover, because I think everyone thought 2020 was the worst year, but actually it's been 2021.
Yeah.
Business wise.
Yeah.
Because everything stopped. All the government handouts stopped.
Absolutely.
All of the furlough stopped. And obviously we all took out loans and things to cover that time that are all now needing to be paid.
Absolutely.
And like Lottie says, the footfall hasn't increased. So it's the sort of thing of now we've got the hangover debt, as well as just, your average outgoings.
Getting through it.
And it's very hard. And I'm very glad that we do it as a team, because I don't know how individual business owners haven't cracked under the pressure.
No, I don't know how I haven't cracked yet. I think I'm cracking. But you're right. It is so hard, because everything is now starting to have to be replenished, isn't it? Like bounce backs and everything like that. And I think, certainly my accountant just says, just well done for being there. Because there's a lot of people, sadly, that aren't. Yeah. And that even though they came through it, they're now like, I can't keep going.
It's unsustainable for a lot of people.
Isn't it?
I don't know what's worse, having a business that's been running for 15, 20 years that suddenly can no longer do it, or a business that started up and can't, it's just brutal, I think. And, we put a post out a couple of months ago asking for help, which I come from a social media background. So for me, I was very kind of like, you're taught you don't put anything negative out and everything has to be positive. And the problem is with that is you become the victim of that typical thing that everyone does on Instagram, where you put the best parts of your life.
Absolutely.
But what we were doing was essentially putting, everything's fine, we're doing great, we've got this, we're offering this, but actually we're struggling. And then people just assumed we were okay.
Yeah.
So we put a post out a couple of months ago, basically like, we're not actually okay, and we do really need you to come and shop with us and buy a coffee or whatever. And it had an incredible response.
Did it?
Yeah, people were amazing.
Even other businesses were saying thank you, because it wasn't aimed at just us. It was the industry of how everyone needs you. And we have businesses reaching out to us saying thank you for highlighting it, because we've been struggling for months and it needed to be said. So which was lovely.
I think you're so right as well, because it is. I've taken a bit of a breather from social media personally, because it was just all getting too much, and people sometimes they're like, oh, your life looks so amazing, it looks so great, and it's like, because like you say, you don't always post you're not gonna, I'm not gonna literally like post the bit of me shouting at my son, telling him to get his shoes on before school every morning, or all the other millions of things that I might be juggling throughout the day on top of everything else that I'm doing. But you're right, but it is good to show that you're human, I think, because we are all, we're all going through a human experience here, and this has been really, really tough. And I think that's really great that you did that, because I do like the fact that people are being a bit more real now. They're being a bit more, oh no, not everything's all glossy, and actually this has been hard, and I am fragile, human, that's okay, please, I'm sometimes flawed just like the next person, but it doesn't mean that I'm not trying the best I can, and we can all be good, kind to each other and help each other ultimately. So I think that's great that you did that. You did the Christmas opening as well, didn't you, on the Pantiles?
Did the big reveal,
which is brilliant. So tell me a bit about that.
So there's a local town, well, not local town, but there's a town that I grew up in that does something similar. And I turned around to Holly and said, this year I want everyone to get Christmassy. This was in August, and Holly was like, "It's August." She says in her penguin jumper.
This is exactly
in November.
What I mean. Like, honestly, I don't even think it was all. I think this was May, and I was like, "Dude, we haven't got summer yet." Like,
and I went, "We need to do this. We need to do it." So we pitched it.
Which I do love that you pushed me out of my comfort zone.
We pitched it to the Pantile traders, and they
love it?
They.
Half
they
and
were
half,
half and half. I think half were a little bit reserved, not quite sure, see what happens. I think everyone will be on board next year, because the number of people that came, we weren't even, I remember panicking that morning going, what if nobody turns up to this? And there must have been 500 people.
Was there?
It was insane.
Brilliant. You had, I think my daughter's talents were down there, weren't they?
Yes, talents sung. So talents were on there.
With Debbie.
That was amazing. So they opened and they were so fantastic. And then we had the Tonbridge choir singing in the evening, and Santa.
So cool.
We had a proposal on the bandstand.
Did you?
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Was that like planned? Was that
with us? Yeah.
It was perfect. It was one of our customers.
So cool.
He came
Adele, eat your heart out.
Yeah. Honestly, it was just.
It was incredible.
Oh, that's so lovely.
And it's really kicked everything off. I think we kind of. I thought when we initially planned it. So the idea is, if anyone doesn't know, is that all the traders reveal their Christmas window displays. So it took a lot of planning to get to the point where everyone knew what they had to do. And we did it in timed slots because that's what they do in East Grinstead. And we were like, okay, that seems to work. We won't do it in time slots.
No, we're going to do it all in one.
Was it?
Honestly, I thought it would be like a little crowd of 30 people going from one to the next, and there were 500 people and no one could move. So, you know, realistically, the time, expecting everyone to do each time, so I was like, oh, yeah, okay. But
everyone had a massive uplift as well. We've had traders calling us all week, thanking us for just...
Yeah, I don't think anyone expected.
Nobody expected that.
It was busier than a busy jazz on the Pantiles in the summer. It was
That's brilliant.
Unbelievable.
And it's amazing that the community just embraced that. It was a completely free event that people could turn up to, buy some mulled wine, mince pie, and do a bit of late night shopping. Santa was there, carol singing, and people loved it. It was great.
I mean, well done for getting that, you know, sorting that. I mean, obviously, like the window reveals, you might do differently, but you're going to do it again.
Absolutely.
What other things have you got planned coming up? Sort of what other things can you tell us? Anything?
Got Swap Shop.
We've got Swap Shop on Wednesday.
Swap Shop
I'm
this
very
Wednesday.
excited about Swap Shop.
Yeah.
Swap Shop is something we did when we very first opened, and we haven't been able to do it since because of COVID. So basically, in a nutshell, you buy a ticket, and before the day, so it's on Wednesday, so before the day, you bring in up to 10 items of clothing that you want to swap. It has to be adults at the moment. And it can be anything, clothes, shoes, accessories. Yeah. And you get a token for every item. So most people bring 10 and they get 10 tokens. Yeah. And then on the night, we put everything out on the rails and you literally just buy clothes with your tokens.
I
so you're
love
swapping
that
10
idea.
for 10. And last time we did it was so popular and people loved it. We're doing it a bit differently this year. We're doing it more like an outside market so that people can come in, because our shop's quite small to put a lot of rails in. Yeah. So yeah, this year it's going to be like an outdoor kind of Christmassy market, all lit up. People can try stuff on, which we didn't have last time, and then they can come and have some mulled wine and stuff when they're done.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah. And it's timing wise, with it being a festive season, we're encouraging people to bring old Christmas party dresses, so there'll be a party dress swap rail, you know, and then that will hopefully encourage people for the next one, which will be in January, which will kind of be I'm going to do a challenge to not buy anything new for the whole of February. So we're going to do an event right at the end of January that is actually more of a workshop. So there'll be a mini swap for anyone who comes, just between themselves. But the workshop to talk about how to buy clothing sustainably and all the different avenues that you can do that don't mean going and buying brand new from the shops. So, and then get everyone to sign up to a challenge.
I think if I come and have some coffee and cake with you at some point, you'll be like, you've got a lot to learn. To be honest.
We all have. Honestly, there are times I feel really ashamed when I buy stuff in the supermarket because I know that I just need to get something and I'm like, I run a zero waste shop and I've just bought this. And, you know, we all just do what we have to do.
But I really like your attitude, both your attitudes about it. Sort of, you know, like you say, you're not judging people, you're not getting down on people, but there's that education point of it that if, you know, for me, if I learn about something, then that's it, I'm set. You know, if I'm like, oh, why have I been doing it that way? I should be doing it that way. Then I'll keep doing it that way. So half of it with me is not being educated. So
and it's just you could make one swap.
Yeah, exactly. There's many things that you can do.
Has such a big impact. So it's not about doing it perfectly. It's doing it imperfectly.
But also the fact that you're doing events with people, like you're collaborating, you're doing things, and you're extending what you do, and like with clothing and everything. I really like the way that it's not just, you know, you're not limiting it to food and coffee. It's just you're trying to reach out to people in different ways, which is brilliant. It's great.
Yeah. We also work with. We've got a couple of really amazing, like they've become regulars, but they're our friends now. You know, loyal customers, as it were. Who. Yeah. Because we rent out our space for events as well, so people can run events in the shop.
That's good to know.
So we've got another Christmas burlesque party. We had one in Halloween, which was very successful.
Very successful.
And we've also got a female empowerment in work and life, which is on the 3rd of December, and that is with 3 incredible sort of women who are doing talks on how to be more empowered in all areas of your life, all aspects of your life, and that's one that I really want people to come away from feeling like, you know, with a plan. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's important.
Well, you know what? You know, as you said, you both set up a business. You've had children. I mean, I myself, I was actually just telling this story to someone yesterday about how the reason that I set up my PR agency to start with was because my daughter and my son were in nursery, and all my wages where I was working was going on nursery, and I was spending no time with my children. So I literally just set up my PR, it's a boring story for lots of people, but I literally set it up because I was like, I only need 3 clients and I'll just go and look after them, and then I can spend some time with my family. And then from that, 10 years later, it's grown to what it's been. So it's just, and then I've done lots of other things along the way, but there's a story to be said about that, because it was just being a mother. But I was just doing stuff all the time with my kids and everything like that. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because of the experience I have with my family, and I get to live and work and be the way I want to be. And it's a really strong story, but it's a lot that we take on as women. It's a lot.
Absolutely. I think we're not as good at congratulating ourselves as we should be.
No, I don't think so. I agree with that.
And we try to recognise it. We did... We've got a kind of another, I don't know how to say it without actually saying it, F Up Stories, we'll call it. So F Up Stories is an event that we run, which basically was an all-female panel where we talk about the mistakes we've made in business. Yeah. So it's not about kind of like, we're so amazing, blah, blah. It's actually saying like, here's where we went wrong. Yeah. Here's where we messed up. Yeah. And here's what we learnt. And it's essentially like it was aimed at other female business owners to show them, because I think a lot of us right now are having that imposter syndrome and that feeling of like, I don't know if I'm, doing the right thing, or should I stick at this? And it was almost supposed to be a bit of a rally cry of kind of, we've all been there, we've all made mistakes, and we want to celebrate the fact that you can get past them. So,
well, and also mistakes are lessons.
Absolutely.
If you don't make mistakes, and I've talked about this so many times with guests, but I've had a few businesses and I've made plenty of mistakes, and you take more risks the more mistakes you make, because you learn, and if you don't take risks and if you don't make mistakes, then you don't. No one gets it right first time. No, and it's just the way it is, isn't it?
Well, it's that big thing of the most successful businesses and business owners have all had horrendous mistakes made.
It's life, isn't it?
Yeah, but you never hear about them.
No.
So you think that these amazing successful businesses have never had any mistakes, and that's just not true. And sometimes I think you need to hear that, we've made fundamental errors along our way, but it's okay, because look at where we are, and
that's brilliant. And what you've learned from it, and what so people can find out. I mean, this is great. So all your events, where do I need to go and find out about all of them, please, Holly and Lottie?
On our events page on our website.
Your events page
easy
on
to
your
navigate,
website, which
just
is
go to
great.
thezerowastecompany.com, and then there's a little one that says events, and it will show everything that we've got coming up.
And if anyone wants to go and have an amazing cup of coffee and some wonderful cake or pastries or soup or anything, it's down on the Pantiles, isn't it?
We are, yes.
You're very, very easy to find down the Pantiles. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Honestly, it's been really interesting to talk to you. And like I said when you first came in, I need to find out a bit more, because these events sound great, and I love what you guys are doing. And thank you for bringing your energy and enthusiasm to Tunbridge Wells, because it sounds like this is a growing area, which is great for everybody.
I think it is. Yeah.
Very sustainable.
Thank you very long term.
And I've just realised you've got Holly, and it's all about Christmas, isn't it?
But it was the right time to come.
Well, I hope you both have a lovely Christmas.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming to see us today.